What's up guys, Rudy here and welcome back to the channel. Ever since this channel was created, something that I always have been trying to bring into the channel is the conversations about video games or anime, but in the more fashion perspective side of things. Because I personally do believe that there's so much ideas and inspiration that we can draw from it and vice versa. In fact, the main reason why I am so into functional and technical wear is because I do personally draw a lot of inspiration from these sources as well. That is why I am so incredibly hyped and excited for today's video. As the title suggests, in today's video we will be diving in and checking out Notinlist, which I recently got to know about them, and I was very interested in them because it's a brand that is heavily inspired by video games and futuristic sci-fi movies. As always, we will be taking a look at what the brand is all about, as well as having the opportunity to check out some of the pieces. But before we continue to dive further into today's video, it would be very much appreciated if you could go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel or just haven't been subscribed yet, as it really does help the channel out a long way. Also, if you are feeling generous and want to help support the channel in a much bigger way, I do have a Patreon page whereby I've only set it up to be $1 a month, and all of it will go into helping me to pick up new film equipments so that I can continue to improve the qualities of the videos for you all, as well as helping to keep the lights on this channel. Let's just go through an overview and a little bit of the brand's history. Having started game art development, Xavier, who is the founder and also lead designer of Notinlist, started the brand out of his interest in video games and sci-fi fictions. While the dream back then was to become a manga or concept artist, Xavier then saw a common ground between anime or video games and fashion, in the sense that although they are two very different worlds, they both share a common similarity in the sense that they are actually just idea concepts from designer and artists. With that as a premise, the brand tries to combine those elements together with a more minimalist and futuristic design approach into their garment making. As a result, you have pieces that look very neo-futuristic and dystopic. Their third and latest collection is titled Neo-Militarism, and according to the site, it explains that the collection explores the glimpse of future military aesthetic, and I think this really does showcase the ideology of the brand really well. Throughout the entire collection, from the design silhouettes to color schemes that uses much more cooler and muted industrial colors, it reminds me a lot about video game titles from Hideo Kojima, such as Metal Gear Solid and Death Stranding. In my opinion, this collection strikes a very good balance between aesthetic and wearability. I find that many times when brands try to bring over this ethos into their pieces, it can get overly loud. Now, by no means this is a perfect collection, because as much as I really love this brand and the collection as a whole, there's definitely one major issue that needs to be discussed about, and I will get into further details as we continue to talk and look at some of the pieces. Do note, while they are not particularly considered to be techwear pieces, as they simply do not offer much when it comes to performance or functionality, I still do think that you are able to implement these pieces in a more techwear aesthetic if it's paired up with the appropriate functional pieces. A small disclaimer, I will not be reviewing every single piece in this collection, but what I have done is actually selected a couple that I am personally interested in checking them out, and Xavier was very kind enough to lend me all those pieces for me to kind of review them and kind of showcase it to you all. However, I did actually purchase one piece with my own money, and with all that being said, let's go ahead and check out all the pieces, starting from the least expensive moving on to the most expensive one. The first piece that we'll be checking out is one of my top favorite pieces from them, which is the T2 Trooper bucket hat. It is one of the two accessories that was released in this collection, and I really love and dig the design of it. When I first saw it on the website, I immediately was drawn to the design, as it looks so different compared to all the other bucket hats out there that I've seen, as it has this very asymmetrical and angular pattern going on, which is actually something that Xavier utilizes a lot in all of his pieces, and it does give out this very cybernetic look. To be honest, I have a pretty love-hate relationship with bucket hats because I really do love wearing them a lot, but because I have a rather large head, most times bucket hats just don't fit me, or they just look really weird on me. Safe to say, although it only comes in one size, it fits my head perfectly, and just because of that, this is officially my favorite bucket hat. Also, because it's a fairly wide and large bucket hat, it does provide a fairly good amount of sun protection, which is something that most times regular bucket hats just don't do it for me. The standout feature of the bucket hat has to be this additional extended brim attached to it, with both parts of the bucket hat color separated. The bucket hat itself is black in color, while the extended brim is in this darker gray. Due to the design of it, it's more heavily extended on one side, but by not much. However, it still gives out this very cool asymmetrical look, and I am totally digging it. When worn, you can have the extended brim covering one side of your eye to give it that more mysterious look. In terms of construction wise, I would say that it is fairly decent, and it's definitely one of their more well constructed pieces. When it comes to materials, the entire bucket hat is primarily constructed using polyamide and nylon material, which are actually perfect fabric materials to undergo some sort of DWR treatment so that it is at least water resistant. Unfortunately, this is not the case here, and I think it is one feature that should have been included into the bucket hat, considering that it already has a fairly good sun protection with how wide the brim is, and by having water resistant capabilities, it would only give it a more complete package. The next piece that we'll be checking out is the T2 Exo Skeleton T-Shirt, and this is hands down my favorite piece in this entire collection, and it's also the piece that I personally bought with my own money. In my opinion, it's actually really difficult to reconceptualize a t-shirt because to me it's a piece that's already been perfected, and in most cases you don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to t-shirts. That is why to me it's actually really difficult to make a t-shirt feel unique, different. However, I think my perception towards innovation in t-shirts really changed when I first saw the Exo Skeleton T-Shirt. The concept of the t-shirt is inspired by sci-fi exoskeleton suits, and instead of just adding graphic prints on a t-shirt, which frankly would be a pretty boring move, they are actually angular panels added onto the back to kind of resemble an actual exoskeleton suit. I absolutely love this design detail, as it manages to add such a cool detail without being overly tacky, resulting in a piece that looks super unique, but at the same time being very wearable on a daily basis. The panels are made from the same material as the Trooper bucket hat that gives it a very rigid and matte feel. On the left side, there is the reflective Notinlist logo printed, and also an exposed sizing tag on the lower left of the panel. In the front, there are additional angular detailing, and I like that the front pocket is placed all the way at the side and slightly angled, which kind of reminds me of a holster, making me actually utilizing the pocket more often than I thought I will due to the ease of reach of it. In terms of sizing, they are a little bit tricky because on the side, the model is 186 centimeters or 6'1" and is wearing a size 2. I am 177 centimeters or 5 feet 10, and size 2 was way too small for me, to a point I could not even fit inside of it. After comparing the sizing measurements with some of my Uniqlo tees, size 3 was the closest in terms of measurement, and it ended up fitting me perfectly. So to anyone that is planning to pick this piece up, don't base it on your height measurement, but really look at the measurements provided and choose the size that is closest to your body. As much as I love the t-shirt, it is certainly not a perfect piece, as I have to mention about the fabric choice. Now with this particular piece, according to Xavier himself, there will be some fabric piling, and for those who don't know what fabric piling is the loose strands or balls of fiber that forms on a piece of fabric. While it doesn't particularly affect the overall fabric material, it certainly doesn't look visually pleasing. Unfortunately, from what Xavier has told me, this issue was only found out after production. Therefore, it's almost impossible for them to kind of just change the fabrics and reproduce a new batch. So in that sense, I totally understand, but he did mention that if there ever were to be a re-release of this t-shirt, then this is one aspect that will 100% be improved on. From my quick research, there are methods out there to help out with the cleaning of the piling, such as using a razor blade to carefully shave off the small balls forming on the surface of the fabric, or you could even just get a fabric shaver, and over time the piling issue will eventually stop. Up next, we have the T2 Engineer Waffle hoodie, and this is a really cool piece because it is based off and inspired by the clothing that the engineers wore from the movie Prometheus. Therefore, there are a lot of design elements being drawn from it. To start things off, the fabric choice for the hoodie is this light grey waffle knit cotton that is very similar looking towards the cape's fabric texture that the engineers themselves wore in the movie, resulting in the hoodie having this very dystopic and raw look. It almost feels like a hybrid between a hoodie and a cape. I am wearing a size 2 and I think it fits as intended. It does have a pretty oversized and flowy cut, therefore I would suggest sticking true to size, or you can even go one size up if you want a more cape feel. The fabric is actually relatively thin and light, which also contributes towards the feel of the hoodie being more cape-like, and I think this is a great transitional piece moving into the fall season. In terms of design, the front of the hoodie is rather minimal looking, with a single black diagonal zipper running across the entire front portion. Some other smaller details, you have an asymmetrical extended hem and a silicone patch logo at the front of the chest area. Moving towards the back, there are also these shoulder panels, which is a design that is found in some other pieces in this collection as well. It almost feels like it's inspired by armor plating, and it does give out a rather futuristic military look. Taking a look at the sleeves, it has this dual tone color and angular cutouts, which I think adds a nice color contrast and visual differences. Coming in at $110 US, we are entering the triple digit category, and I think this is a pretty competitive price segment because there are a lot of other bigger brands out there that are offering pieces around this price point. Hence, I think besides just a great design, the piece needs to have the overall package in terms of construction and value. This is where this piece falls a little bit in my opinion. While it looks fine from afar, it is when you do look closely at the details, you start to see things like stitch work or cutting of fabric that needs a lot of additional attention. While it's not per se that the piece is going to fall apart or anything like that, it definitely does not have the best craftsmanship, especially if we are looking at some other similar pieces out there that are around the same price point. In this case, it's really more about the manufacturing and production side of things, and I think this is where the brand is still struggling with, because from the short conversation I had with Xavier, they are still having kind of difficulties in terms of sourcing seamstress or even factories that have the skills and capabilities to produce their pieces. However, moving on towards the next collection, all the cut and sew pieces will be made to order, and I think this is probably one of the best moves that they can take in order to ensure that the craftsmanship and quality will be more controlled. And I think if they are able to pull this off, then the brand will definitely undergo a massive improvement. Moving up the list, we have the T1 genetic shirt, and I actually have not seen a piece like this that has such a unique cut and design going on with it that really separates it from a regular button-down shirt. I love how crazy futuristic and sci-fi looking this piece is. It kind of feels like something you would see people of the upper classes or even corporates in sci-fi movies would wear. The overall design of the shirt has a very modern feel with straight angular cuts, and it manages to keep it rather minimal looking with a concealed button closure at the front, exposing only a single button. The collar is also pretty unique looking as it has this extended tab to help hide the top button. I would say the main focus point of the shirt is this dual panel that creates this very interesting asymmetrical look. It's only present on one side, and when you do tuck the shirt in, you can still have the additional panel to stick out, creating this drapey but clean look at the same time. Moving on to the sleeves, the cuffs of the shirt is also a rather interesting one as it has angular cuts around the opening area. And unlike many shirts out there that have a straight cuff opening, the genetic shirt has a much wider and flare-out opening that is also a little bit cropped. One small design touch that I really like is the invisible zip, which isn't that invisible, but it's rather hidden looking. I like the subtle contrast black zipper as it gives the piece just a little bit more industrial look without overdoing it. Checking out the fabric material, it's made from 100% Teflon nylon, and the one thing that I noticed is that it doesn't crease that easily, which is a fabric feature that is very much appreciated in shirts because nobody wants to wear a crumpled shirt. When it comes to shirts, the craftsmanship is very important in my opinion because it's a piece that's highly associated with smart or formal looks. Therefore, if there are anything like uneven stitch lines or crooked patterns, it does stick out even more in shirts, and safe to say the stitch job here is not bad. Overall, the stitch lines are pretty straight and I have not seen any crooked or messed up stitch patterns. I do think that this has highly contributed to the fact that they are made to order, and if you are interested in picking one up, it's only going to be limited to 25 pieces. Honestly, the more I wore it and the more I interact with this shirt, I really have grown towards liking it so much. If you are on the lookout for smart casual stuff but wanting a little bit more unique looking piece, I would highly recommend you guys to give this piece a look. This next piece is actually from their past collection titled Virtual Rising. There is not much information I could gather from this collection, but from the small lookbook photos, it does seem to play around the story of everyone is currently living in a virtual world with the augmented reality blinding them from reality, and I think it does have a much deeper meaning, especially in today's time when the whole pandemic is going on. More and more people are stuck in front of a screen either by choice or by force, moving them further and further away from reality. The Aleron Jacket is part of this collection, and to me it has this very old school sci-fi look that kind of reminds me of anime such as Akira, which have a very 80s to 90s feel but is based off a dystopic future. I think the main reason why it has this old school feeling is due to the color and design of the jacket that has this very 90s Nike track jacket look, but given a much more updated streamlined silhouette. The color is in this very nice muted forest green, and this is something that Notinlist does very well with all their pieces by picking colors that are very pleasing towards the eye. Overall, the jacket has a very boxy nature and it does have a crop fit. I am wearing a size 1, which is a little bit on the smaller side for me, so I would suggest sticking true to size with this piece unless you are trying to achieve a more cropped look. Construction and material wise, there's nothing much to complain about here. The jacket is rather solid and feels pretty much like any other track jacket. It is rather thin and light, therefore I would say it's also going to be a great transitional piece moving into the fall season. Finally, the last and also the flagship piece of the entire collection is the T1 Exo Camo Jacket, and it comes in at a pretty hefty price tag of $250 US. Now, a small disclaimer, the piece that I'll be showcasing in today's video is actually a sample piece, therefore there might be some changes or differences when it comes to the final production pieces. In terms of silhouette, the Exo Camo Jacket borrows a lot of design similarities from the previous Aleron Jacket, but while that piece has a much more 90s sci-fi feel, this takes it up a notch and pushes the design to look much more futuristic. Compared to the Aleron Jacket, there are more angular patterns on this jacket, and it's even more obvious here with each pattern highlighted with a different fabric color, and this moves towards what makes the jacket look so interesting, which is the fabric material. Unlike all the other pieces that we have checked out in today's video or anything that we have looked at in this channel, the T1 Exo Camo Jacket is primarily constructed using this iridescent fabric material that changes color when it's being seen from different angles. It does carry a very nice bluish to greenish hue, and it complements the piece really well in my opinion. If you have played StarCraft 2 before, this jacket gives me major Ghost vibes, especially with Sarah Kerrigan's uniform. From the color blocking to the design, it reminds me so much of her outfit, and the iridescent finish contributes a lot towards the look. The back details are pretty familiar by now with the angular back panels that runs across the sleeves, but my favorite detail of the jacket is the standing collar design. This is one design detail that I'm a sucker for just because I'm a huge sci-fi anime fan, like the Gundam series, which a lot of times the characters' outfits have this color design, and I really love it. This jacket also features a sling strap built in the jacket. It's non-removable and it's really just a basic nylon strap, but it does the job of allowing you to carry the jacket on your back. In terms of how it fits, it's a fairly oversized piece, hence I would say stick true to size, because there is nothing on the jacket to help with adjustability, as it has a pretty straight overall cutting. The T1 Exo Camo Jacket is also one of the pieces that will be made to order, and for a pretty hefty price tag of $250 US, the construction is what you would expect. It's actually really well built, but what you really are paying for here is just the very unique design and the iridescent fabric. I would say if you do, want to really go ahead and get something really crazy, this could be the piece. And if you have something like chest accessories or any other kind of backpacks, a utility vest, then I think you will be able to produce some pretty sick outfits with this piece. That is everything that I was given to check out, and if I have the opportunity to keep anything from this collection, I would say the triple bucket hat would probably be my #1 choice, and followed by the genetic shirt. I think these two pieces really stood out the most to me. Wrapping this video up, while yes, the pieces in this collection are definitely not perfect, and there are a lot of room for improvement here. However, I think given enough time, this is a brand that has so much potential. I think Xavier has so much talent and a really good eye when it comes to designing, and with enough experience, I just cannot wait to see how the future collections will turn out. So if you are a fan of video games and fashion at the same time, do consider to give them a follow over on Instagram or even check out some of their pieces on their web store. All of it will be linked down below in the description. What are your thoughts about Notinlist and some of their pieces? Are you a fan of the incorporation of video games and fashion kind of blending in together? Do let your thoughts be known down in the comment section below and let's discuss about it. If you have watched all the way to the end, thank you so incredibly much because it really does help me to add in the number of hours that the channel needs in order to be qualified to generate a little bit of revenue so that I can continue to keep the lights on this channel. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button as well as hit the bell notification so that you will be instantly notified when a new video comes up. This will be especially useful as I don't really have a consistent upload schedule for this channel. That is all I have for today's video. If you did enjoy watching it, please give it a thumbs up, stay safe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.